When body and life separate, nature of the body shows up. It's just a shell, and the energy becomes invisible, but it's not affected. The energy does not depend on the body. And health lives in that realm as well as in the realm of awareness. That's why peace is good for health, right? That's why feeling lit up inside. That's why being present in the space your body occupies is good for health, because that is the foundation of health. Life is perfect health, and peace is beyond health.
Hey, it's Rocky. Welcome to Richer Soul. Today's guest is Udo Erasmus, who is back to talk about totally sexy health. Imagine it's 12 months from now, and you've achieved your major life goals. How does it feel to be in the best shape of your life? To wake up energized, excited about the day? To have great relationships and friends who support you and propel you forward? How does it feel to have an excess of money, to be able to make the choices you want? To be fearless and open to trying new adventures? Imagine being connected to the universe and it providing everything you desire. It's possible over time, and your past does not dictate your future. The only thing holding you back from this vision is you. It's time to take control of our thoughts and use them to our advantage. Welcome to Richer Soul, where we achieve our dreams and create harmony to health, wealth, relationships, time, and spirituality. If you have not had a chance to listen to episodes 1 through 9, I encourage you to go back and listen to the framework behind Richer Soul and how to create the life of your dreams. You can also find all the show notes for this episode at richersoul.com. Today's quote comes from David Viscott. The purpose of life is to discover your gift. The work of life is to develop it. The meaning of life is to give your gift away. Wow, it's powerful. It took me a long time to figure out my gift, and now I continue to work on it. And then I give it away. I love it. Lots of fun. Hopefully you can too. Before we continue, let's review last week's action step, which was about escaping the matrix. Draw a line on the piece of paper, and on one side, write more of what you want to do, and on the other side, less of what you want to do. Question is, did you do it? Did you take a step closer to the life you want and make that change? That creates the room for you to discover your gift. It creates the room for you to work on your gift and ignore everything else. It's a choice. We all get to make it. Udo is back again. If you didn't hear his backstory, check it out in episode 280, where he talks about why your body needs an oil change. He's back again to go deeper into what it really means to live a healthy, fulfilling life. I always love to talk to people who are 20 years ahead of me, and especially those that I admire and I want to be like in 20 years. I always want to know, how do they stay so healthy and vibrant? See, we don't have to get old per se. We can stay young and fit. I think a big part of that is mindset, and the actions that I take today will help me to see those results compound over the next 20 years. Do you look at what you want in your future and then work backwards to today to see what step you need to take to achieve that result? This is why I go lift weights, do yoga, join karate, eat clean, continue to keep my mind sharp by learning each week, because I know it will help me achieve the goals I want. I walked in the gym this morning, the guy on a treadmill, the back of his shirt said class of 56. I'm like, whoa, how old does that make him? He's 4 years old, I guess, in the gym, working out early this morning. I love it. This is how we live a long, healthy life. We're going to dig into that today with Udo Erasmus, who is the founder of Udo's Choice and the author of the book on the Total Sexy Health, the 8 Key Parts Designed by Nature. He's an acclaimed author and speaker, and he has an 8-step process that takes into consideration all of the elements of nature and human nature, including physical health, mental health, presence and awareness, life energy, and being in harmony with nature and humanity. His background includes studies in biochemistry, genetics, biology, and nutrition, as well as a master's degree in counseling psychology. Let's meet Udo for his second appearance. Welcome back to Richer Soul, Udo Erasmus. It's great to have you join us today.
Glad to be here for a second time.
And I'm excited to continue the conversation. So let's start off with a quote. This is what I read from you. 90% of what you report isn't happening in the outside world, but you project it onto the outside world from your memories, beliefs, and prejudices, and from your attitudes and your imagination. Though you hold these to be true in your mind, they're figments, illusions, or delusions that you substitute for truth.
Did I say that?
I think that came out of your book.
I did say that. Yeah. Yeah, there's, something. I have moments of great clarity when I have insights. And that book was kind of written with insights. It kind of flowed. It was almost like, sometimes people call it channeling. But it was coming, it just flowed from a deeper place. There is research that shows that only 10% of what people report, like if they are at the scene of an accident or the scene of a crime or something, and why eyewitness reports can be so unreliable is because we bring so much into our perceptions. So it's not like we're just seeing what is. We're actually we actually filter through our own biases and prejudices and suppositions and assumptions and memories and fear and so much of that comes out of our experience of life on the planet for this as long as we've been here. That's all stored. And we see things, especially intense things, through survival mechanisms that can be very misleading. Whereas if somebody was really calm in a really quiet place inside, where they had nothing going, they might actually give you a much better eyewitness report. But the 90%, 10%, that came out of research, where people actually examined what was actually happening and what people reported was happening, and noticed that we bring a lot into our observations. So these are not pure observations.
And I've been noticing that over the last couple of weeks. I've been more focused just on challenging whether or not what I'm seeing is real or whether or not what I'm seeing is my interpretation of it. And how is that manifesting into me? And I think that just recently I watched 2 different videos, and one of the videos, they were both, I think, TEDx talks, but one of them was talking about how to silence all the chatter and just question every thought. Like, is this thought serving me? Is it good?
Right.
Part of that. And then the second video was along the lines of most of our programming is done from about the ages of 6 to 9. And so looking at the filter of what was happening in your life at those times, what were the first set of programming kind of being written in your code? And have you ever challenged that? Have you grown beyond it? Or are you still functioning in that space? And so I think your Your quote kind of captures the essence of that.
We learned in the psychology that I studied that our personality is pretty much set by age 4 and maximum age 6. And based on whatever it was we experienced in those the earliest years. And then everything else gets built on top of that. and then you have a tape running. You have a tape that began at birth when you came into the world, right? And then you started recording a tape of all the experiences that you got to. And then the idea is, okay, well, I want to change my personality. Well, then you go in some growth group and you learn something about something, but then every time that you get in a stress situation, you go back to the tape because you haven't literally dug out the entire tape and retaped it. You've only added other ideas to the tape. So those are not going to be very strong in your being when you're in a crisis situation because they're just a small recording at the end of a very long recording that begins being based on emotions and feelings before you have language.
And it's funny. So I've been reading books. They're more about money scripts and behaviors, but it's the same concept because whether it's money or any other part of your life, it follows through. Mm-hmm. And what they're actually saying is your tape began long before birth.
Well, there's that as well.
And it's for two factors. And I think there's two portions to it. One is your ancestors programmed the later ancestors who programmed your parents, who were then programming you.
Right.
And
so that's a cultural thing. It's a multi-generational cultural thing that we inherit, that
yes.
we're born into the midst of. Yeah.
And so there's that tape. And then the tape of while you're in the womb, you're experiencing what your mother is experiencing in many senses. Although
Maybe.
You probably can't register it, right? Because you don't have speech at that point. Even the first couple of
right.
years of life, you don't have speech.
Right.
But again, it comes back to the feelings and the way that all of the chemicals are going on in the body and everything else that happens from that.
Yeah, you would learn something before birth. I kind of minimize it. If you're born relatively healthy, then a lot of the physical stuff, and then you're padded, it's a padded cell, right? So you're padded by water. So if your mother is upset, you will get a little bit of the adrenaline, and you might get a little bit of the feeling that she's involved in. But I think you're largely protected from that. And the peace that is also in her when she's upset, that peace is in you, but is more prominent in you because you don't have much else to go on. So the peace and the unconditional love that you feel that are the core of your existence, that are always the core of your existence, you're probably going to be getting more of that than you are of your mother's nervousness about whatever it is that's going on in her life, triggered externally.
Interesting. Before we dive into your book and getting more practical, I have one more kind of the big picture question.
Yeah.
And so this also comes out of the book. You're not your body parts or any of its parts. You are not any of your thoughts, images, or stories. You are not any of what you cover your body with, nor are you what surrounds it. Nor are you a victim of a slave of any of these. So if you aren't any of these, what exactly are you? And you said to think about it for a moment. If you strip everything away, you are not.
Yeah.
What is there that you cannot strip away?
Yeah. What would you be left with?
That's the question.
Yeah, I know. I'm flipping it back to you. No. So if you lie down and you strip everything you can, so that means you let go of your external input. You let go of your thought input. You let go of your body. So now you're already out of the body. So you're out of the physical. You end up in energy. And if you let go of the energy, you end up in pure awareness. And that is how a human being is built. At the core is pure awareness, no content. Outside of that unconditional love or energy or life, whatever you call it, whatever you want to call it, or solar energy, because we are solar energy gadgets. Life is solar energy. When it's in our body, we call it life. Or call it the master, because it runs everything in your body. And outside of that will be the shine of that will be inspiration. So that's what you're going to find if you let go of everything you can let go of. Because that goes with you wherever you go. You know, I can move out of my environment and I can focus on different thoughts. So I'm not tied to them. And I can even get outside my body. Some people can. I don't do that, but some people can. And so they're not even tied to their body. But they're still aware. Like if you talk to people about near-death experiences, you know, they're floating at the ceiling, while looking at their body, listening to the doctors talk. The doctors think they're dead. And then they get revived, and then they tell the doctors what they said when they were dead. Right? So there are some pretty interesting stories about, and they're just examples of some things that can happen when we separate the aspects of our existence. And fundamentally, the deepest place we can go where we can't go any further is just pure awareness. Pure awareness is also called God. It's also called the field by the physicists. And it is an experience of, I don't know, you could call it an experience of bliss, an experience of wholeness, an experience of peace. That's where peace lives. That's where the peace that cannot never become unpeaceful, that's where it exists in every human being.
So everyone's got the question, how do we get there?
Yeah, most people say, what do I do to get there? But you can't do anything to get there because it's a being issue, not a doing issue. And we're so addicted to doing that we always want to do being.
We are human beings, right?
Yeah. And yeah, exactly. And we've become human doings, right? And so people ask, well, how do I do that? Well, you can't do it. It's when the doing stops that the being becomes apparent. And so fundamentally sit, be still. You know, I tell people, look, you can start with heartache. If your heart aches, that pulls you out of your head and puts you into your chest. And if you can sit with heartache, it's uncomfortable, but that is the call for your awareness to come home to life. That's what heartache is. Heartache is not, there are triggers on the outside that trigger it. But it's not about the trigger. It's about us falling back to our recognition of our disconnection from ourselves. And that happened after birth, when our senses took our awareness out into the world, because we had to get to know the world. And in the process of, in the womb, we were present inside and absent outside in the focus of awareness. Then we were born, we became present outside, but absent inside in our awareness. And the disconnection of our awareness from inside our being is where heartache began. And then whenever something ends on the outside that we were hoping was going to be our anchor, when that evaporates, then we fall back to our feeling of disconnection from ourselves. So sit with that feeling and not to judge it, and just to feel it, and just calmly sit it and acknowledge it and be with it. And less than a hair's breadth behind that feeling is the wholeness that heartache is calling you to come home to.
So by the very definition, it's not a thought, it's a feeling. And feelings happen in the body, not in the brain.
Exactly. But it's also not an emotion, because emotions always have thoughts attached to them. This is a state of being. Peace is not a word, is not a concept, is not a formula. And that's the thing, is when people say, how do I do that? They always want a formula. This is the one thing there is no formula for. Other than the heartache calls you home, and you sit, and you get still, and you sit through the boredom that comes from your addiction to doing. People say, oh, I tried meditation, it doesn't work for me. It's just so boring. And what I say to them is fall in love with the boring. Notice how peaceful that boredom is. Fall in love with boredom. Be with it. You're on the right track. Deeper than that, you will discover more. But you can't say, okay, well, and religious people have formulas. If I say I do this and blah, 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 and please, yes, this and this, and then you babble the formula, and then it happens. It doesn't happen. You're just babbling a formula. I mean, something might happen, but it ain't the formula that makes it happen. Because it's beyond formulas. It's like we learned that, there's a way that you develop habits. So what first thing is you're unconscious, incompetent. You don't even know you got a problem. So you're unconsciously incompetent. Then you become consciously incompetent. Then with practice, you become consciously competent. And then with more practice, you become unconsciously competent, right? That works for everything except consciousness, because you cannot be unconsciously conscious of consciousness. So this is always going to have to be a deliberate thing that you bring awareness to, that you become present to, that you notice, that you pay attention to. So, and people would like to do it in their sleep, but what is the point of being conscious if you're not conscious of it? Right? That's called sleeping. Right? What do you experience when you're sleeping? Nothing, if you're lucky. No dreams, right?
No dreams. So we're here to talk about health. And one of the things you said on the last interview, and I know you say it even in the book and the conversations we've had, hardly anybody pursues health.
Yeah.
And we almost don't know what health is. Mm-hmm. So let's start there.
Okay.
Why is this?
Because our senses alert us to change. And health is not a change process. Health in its essence is a state of being. So your senses will not take you automatically to a state of being, because it's like when there's nothing going on, when there's literally nothing going on in my body, I'm alive and I'm breathing and I have no pain anywhere. I kind of take it for granted. But that is health, right? But now all of a sudden my elbow hurts, or I have a cut on my hand, or something has gone wrong. My senses are attracted to change, to assess change, and to deal with change for survival. That's how that works. What we're actually looking for, the peace and the love and the contentment and the health, those are states of being, and there isn't any change in a state of being. A state of being exists as itself. So you can't, so it's when you lose your peace and you end up in a war, then you say, oh my God, I want peace, I want peace, I want peace. So the mess reminds you of what you want, but the mess doesn't give you a way to get there either. You can just stop the war, but when you stop the war, that's not peace, that's a ceasefire. And often at the end of wars, the people hate each other more, or at least as much as they did through the whole wartime. So you haven't actually created peace. Peace is a different realm. And so from and the same thing applies to health. Health is a different realm. What is health? Well, life is health. Life is perfect health. The energy that keeps you alive never gets sick, never dies. Formless in its nature, you can't break down something that has no form. So, so here's this energy. It's flowing through you. It's running everything in your body. And that energy itself is not affected by whether you have an ulcer or not, or whether you have a cancer in your body or not, because it's beyond that. Energy is indestructible. Solar energy, your life, that is the master in your body, that does all the work, that provides the power, that empowers your body. When body and life separate, nature of the body shows up. It's just a shell, and the energy becomes invisible, but it's not affected. The energy does not depend on the body. And health lives in that realm as well as in the realm of awareness. That's why peace is good for health, right? That's why feeling lit up inside. That's why being present in the space your body occupies is good for health, because that is the foundation of health. Life is perfect health, and peace is beyond health. So it's almost like a hierarchy that starts from peace, goes to love, goes to inspiration, goes to the body, and then goes to survival smart, and then goes into the environment. And all of the places where disease happens is in the places that change. So you get environment changes, social group changes, survival smarts change, mind changes, emotions change. That's where illnesses come from. But life doesn't change, peace doesn't change, and the big picture universe beyond are beyond illness.
It's all within. So what is totally sexy health?
Total sexy health. Well, the idea of the book was like this. Sex is the power word for human beings. Everything we sell is sold by sexy, right? Why? Because it's the power word. And so I thought, well, you know what? We sell everything by sexy. I'm going to use the word sexy to sell people on their own magnificence. I think that's a really good way to use that word. And the idea is this, that you have 8 parts. So one is internal awareness. Then there's life energy. Then there's inspired creativity. Then there's the physical body. Then there's survival smarts. Then there is social group. Then there is the natural environment. And then there is the big picture, that you're the universe picture. And each one of those plays a role in health. When you live aligned with it, then you're going to be the healthiest you can be, which is also the sexiest you can be. And any one of those 8 that you get unaligned with, you're going to lose some of your sexy, you're going to lose some of your healthy. And when you get realigned with it, you get that sexy back, you get that health back. That's the model. That's a nice model because it's like you start with something that is possible. You know, what is the best state of being that you could be living in? And when you depart from the natural state, then you lose what is possible for you. And when you get back in line, you get it back. So this is not vindictive and, you know, this is, you're gone forever. No, you actually can get out of line and you can get back in line. And that's how you get sick and how you heal sickness.
And the physical body is only one of those 8 parts. Correct.
And you know, when we talked about oils last time, oils are just only 2/45th of the physical. But the physical is just one of those 8 parts. You know, because your mind is not physical. The energy that keeps you alive is not physical. The peace that is the property of your awareness is not physical. The big picture is not physical. Right?
Correct.
And we tend, when we talk about health, we tend to talk about the physical and then to some extent the mental, emotional, and then to some extent the social, and to some extent the environmental. And those are all the places where change happens, because it's the part where forms are. Everything is formed. The body has a form. Other people have forms. The environment has a form, and the emotions are based on thought forms. And anytime something has form, it can lose its form. That's where the fear comes from, if we identify with it, and that's where the injury comes from. And so your health comes from something that cannot be injured. And what cannot be injured, the life energy, puts this body together over and over and over again. It's always working on it. It's always a construction site. That's why when you raise your standards for what you eat, drink, breathe, and think, that's why that can, if you raise your standard of those, that will improve your health, because life will build you a higher standard body when you give it higher standard building blocks. That's called healing. That's like outside of, pharmaceutical drugs, which don't belong in the body, which sometimes can do well as emergency measures, but are not long-term cures for anything, because they're out of line with the natural system. And no one has ever died or gotten sick from a pharmaceutical drug deficiency. Right?
So very true. And it's funny because as I look at this, I'm at the age where I'm thinking about growing older. And the reality is the people who stop doing are the people who, I just call it rusting away, right?
Yeah.
In the sense.
Yeah.
And there's studies that actually show, even with the elderly, and we haven't talked about this in a long time, they took people who I think were in their 80s and they put them into a house that resembled when they were in their 50s. Mm-hmm. In other words, the magazines, everything, the news. And then they told them, you can't have your walkers and your canes, and you need to start doing life's things. Within a couple of weeks, they actually became more active, more productive, and younger. Yeah. Just by changing their environment.
Yeah. Makes sense. But I want to go back to how you started this. You said, I'm thinking about getting older. I am thinking about getting older. I am getting older. Well, it depends on who you think you are. It depends on which aspect of nature and human nature you identify with. Because the body's getting older, and the recovery is never perfect. That's why the body ages. But you're not even the body. What if you are life? You're not getting older.
Well, you're right. The body's getting older.
Yeah. And guess what? One day your body's going to check out.
It will.
What's the big deal? Who you are is not going to age at all. Who you are is just going to leave the body one day. Who you are as peace is not aging. It will always be what it is, because a human being is a composite of things that are eternal and things that are temporal, are things that are perfect and things that are temporary. Right? Where's your focus go? If your focus goes on getting older, you'll get older faster. If your focus is on something in you never gets old, then you'd be like me. I'm still a dumb kid having fun.
That's why I have to go to karate tonight.
Yeah, there you go.
That's how I...
Yeah, but karate won't work for you if you get, if somebody throws you or you get hurt, and then you identify with your body.
Mm-hmm. I tell them not to throw me.
Yeah. Just caress me. Maybe you could start caressing yoga, caressing karate. Right? But you understand what I'm saying, right?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Because the body will get older. No question about it. But it'll get older. You know, when I say to people, oh, God, I'm so tired, I get even more tired. Right? And we've done that when we've done really strenuous physical activity. And we've noticed that when we say, I'm tired, we get more tired. And when we just hug each other and say, wow, this is so cool, or something, then we actually don't get so tired. And we end up being capable of much more than when we talk ourselves out of being capable of more. And how powerful our thoughts are in that regard, and how powerful it is what we identify with. It's very powerful. So the body's getting older, but I'm not the body.
Remind people how young you are.
I'll be 80 in about 3 weeks.
And people can't see you, but you're a very young 80.
Yeah, and people say that now. I tell people how old I am because they're blown away. Mm-hmm. Right? And it has to do with that, because I do take, talking about the formula, how do we do that peace and unconditional love thing? I do that. I've been doing it for 50 years. I take time every day to go into stillness. And then so what I do is I close off all my outside. You can wear earphones, or you can put blinders on, or whatever, to cut down the distraction of your senses into the world. You do it in a safe place so you don't have to be disturbed, and your survival doesn't depend on it. And then you just go into stillness and you see, how still can I get? How still can I become? When we were kids, we played like that, so we hide and seek. And then you're somewhere where you're a little bit exposed. You don't want to cough or fart or burp, because then they'll catch you, right? So you could try to be as quiet as you. So how quiet can you become? And then how deep into that stillness can you go? And then how long can you stay in that stillness? And what is in that stillness? And then maybe you can breathe a little more slowly and a little more lightly. And pretty soon you notice there's energy in that space that your body occupies. And that energy is your life, and you are that energy. And that energy is the master, and you are that master. Now we live like we're the body, because we do almost everything for the body, but it's not who we are. And all the wise people, all the wise ones, and all the great masters all said that.
And that's probably why people are more stressed than ever. They're more distracted than ever. Their phones are constantly pinging the this, that, and everything else. So there's another quote from the book that kind of goes back. Go ahead.
Let me just say one thing. Why more pinged and more distressed? Because although peace and unconditional love and indestructible health are present as part of our nature, we're not paying any attention to that. And we're only paying attention to all the things that fall apart and need constant crisis management. So we've actually, it's almost like we've chosen to live in crisis mode. And maybe it's because we haven't been told that at the same time you're in the crisis, you're also in peace, and give peace equal time, and give unconditional love equal time, and give health equal time. Don't just give disease time, give health equal time, and appreciate what that feels like when there's no aches and pains, and give that equal time, because both of them exist within every one of us at the very same every day, 24/7.
Today's episode is sponsored by Profit Answer Man Podcast. Did you know that most small business owners hate looking at their financials? It's one reason they may struggle with business success. The Profit Answer Man podcast helps them ensure they are profitable and can pay their employees and weather the storms we all have to face. It's built on the Profit First methodology of pay yourself first. The Profit Answer Man podcast is a must listen to for every small business owner and anyone who wants to help them survive and thrive. Check it out on your favorite listening platform. There was a quote on death that I wanted to share from the book.
Mm-hmm.
You're quoting on others. It says, the doctor found that the most common last expression of people as they died was, oh shit.
Yeah.
Why? All your life you think and act as though you're in control. At the time of death, you realize as you lose it that you never had control ever. You realize that your life, the ability to think, and what you were able to do were unearned gifts that life and awareness bestowed on you. Knowing this while you live might help you to make you feel even more grateful for every single thing you are, have, do, and live surrounded by. Really everything.
Yep.
Anything to add to that?
No. Could it be said better? You know, it's just a question of whether you believe that or not. And I found that really interesting. You know, I found another example that's a little different. My sister worked in hospice for 15 years. And one day in a conversation, she's told me, you know, she said, I've noticed that people who are religious have a harder time dying than people who are not religious. You know, and when I hear something like that, it's like, oh my God, I wonder why that would be. Why is it? The oh shit was my explanation for what the doctor observed. That wasn't his observation. That wasn't his understanding of it. But it's like one of those things. I wonder why so many people would say oh shit when they die. And then the explanation for it came from my understanding of how life works, right? So I started thinking about why is it religious people would have more of a problem dying? And I understand it. It's because if you base your life on a belief, beliefs can save you from other beliefs because you choose those beliefs instead of the other beliefs. But beliefs cannot save you from reality. And dying is not a belief. Dying is a reality. And the belief will not help you deal with that reality.
Everybody wants to go to heaven, but everyone's sad when someone else does.
Yeah. Yeah. Nobody wants to die to get there. Yeah. Yeah. But why is that? It's because they don't know what life is. Because we don't do our homework. It always comes back to that homework. Because how I understand death comes from my experience of going deep into my own nature. And when you go into a stillness practice, you're doing the same thing that people do when they're dying. Except when you do a stillness practice, it's voluntary and you come back out. And when you're dying, it's not voluntary and you don't come back out. But the process is the same. You disconnect from the surfaces of things, you disconnect from your thinking, you disconnect from your body, and your focus of awareness falls back into its source, where it began. So it's like, it's like when you die, you come back home to life. It's a contradiction, but when you die, you come back home to life. And it's an ecstatic process, except for the resistance when you fight against what's happening that you can't win, that you can't stop. Right? So people struggle because they don't want to let go of the world and they don't want to let go of their thoughts and they don't want to let go of their body. But if you're okay with it, and it helps if you've been there before to be okay with it, helps a lot, then dying becomes easier. It's easier on your kids. It's easier on the people around you. It's easier on you because you're going through a process. It is not, and then it's ecstatic. It is actually ecstatic because your awareness becomes aware of the ecstasy that is the essence of your existence.
Heaven on earth.
Yeah. Well, heaven in earth.
Heaven in earth.
Yeah, heaven in earth. We are heaven in earth, mostly unknown though, right? Because we don't do the practice. Right? So we live in heaven in earth, and they're fighting and killing each other. In heaven on earth.
Speaking of fighting and killing each other, that's one of the things you talk about in the book, that you consider that everyone on the planet should be part of your team. Meaning that we should all be on the same team. We shouldn't be fighting.
No. I'm saying they're already on the team. Yeah, you can't kick anybody off the team. Where are you going to kick them? Where are you going to kick them? Right? And because everything anybody does anywhere affects everyone everywhere. The only way through is to help people go deeper in their being, go deeper in their appreciation of the incredible gift that is life. And the deeper they go, the better team players they become. You know, if peace on earth is the goal, if enjoying life for every human being and getting all basic needs taken care of, if that's the goal, the deeper you go in your being, that's always homework. That's homework for 8 billion people. Good homework, homework that you should be itching to be doing, right? The deeper you go, the better you're on the team you are. But we have team members who are not doing their homework, and some of them are making it harder, right? And it's an individual thing. Completely individual thing. It doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, or if you're black or white, or if you're male or female, or if you're old or young. Same team, same possibility, same homework.
So how do we get them to do it? We can't.
You can't. No, you can't. You can't. If you go so deep in your being that you're inspiring to be around because you feel inspired and you feel unconditionally loved and you feel cared for, and you're happy to give because you have so much to give, and you feel ecstatic in your peace, that's attractive. That's why people follow charismatic leaders, even if they're crazy and their goals are awful, right? Because because there's something in us that wants that. Heartache is the want for that. And so people are attracted to people who have that kind of presence and energy. And so when you do your homework, you become an influence in that direction for other people. And that's, but you can't force them to do it. You only have control in your own space. And you can do anything you want in your own space. And the deeper you go and the more incredible that space you discover that space to be, the more you're going to be able to inspire people to also do their homework. Never been different.
Sounds like the serenity prayer, right? To understand the things I can control and what I can't, and to focus on what I can control, which is myself.
Yeah, and the wisdom to know the difference.
And the wisdom to know the difference.
Yeah. The Alcoholics Anonymous, right?
Everyone is trying to control somebody else instead of controlling themselves.
Yeah. Everybody's trying to control everybody else. And that's where the enmity comes from. And it's never successful. Because something in us cannot be controlled. Right?
So true. So what parts of the book have we not touched on yet that we should?
I don't know. I would say this, we talked about oils, and oils are the most neglected part of nutrition, and digestion is the second most neglected part. And I said that, more important than those two, because there will come a time when oil won't work anymore because your body's checking out, and enzymes won't work anymore, and probiotics won't work anymore. But at that time, the peace and the care and the inspiration will still be intact and alive. And that is the most neglected area through all of human history. We have never developed a teachable field of health We have never developed in a teachable field of peace. We have never developed a teachable field of love, simply because we don't go into the space where those live to be able to describe them and to be able to make some attempts at how do you get there. You see, we're back to your doing question, right? How do you get there? Well, the first thing is everybody needs to know that the peace they're looking for in the world is actually already within them. And they have to go home to find it, not to go out to find it. Same thing for the care, it embedded in life, right? So, and we have never done that. We don't have a teachable field of health. We don't have a teachable field of love. We don't have a teachable field of peace. And so what we've done is health is the leftovers. Peace is the leftovers. Love is the leftovers, when they are actually the foundational principles. And that's how ignorant we are. That's how ignorant we have been for 200,000 years. And you can't blame anybody for it, because it's in our nature to lose our way as we go into the world after we're born. And because the first guys didn't know how to get back, then their children didn't know how to get back, and their children didn't know how to get back, and here we are, right? But throughout ages, there have been people who, for one reason or another, found their way back and made that a topic of conversation. Buddha did it, Krishna did it, Ram did it, Christ did it, Lao Tzu did it, Huang Po did it. Even Socrates was on that track. And it came from internal experiences of being, because that's where you discover the nature of those things. And then they either wrote or they talked about it, or they taught people how to go into that space themselves, how to get quiet, how to go internal, and they made a pretty important point that of all the things to do, this should be your priority if you want to have a rich and fulfilled life. So, yeah.
It almost seems like it's contradictory. Because when we think of a rich life, we think of outside wealth, right? We don't think I know you don't. But that's what society thinks about, right? Wealth is more an external than an internal.
Yeah. And because I was born into a poor family in the middle of a war, I never had money to compare my richness to. So I found my richness elsewhere. And and of course it's very nice, because my richness doesn't depend on whether you cheat me in business, or whether my great idea is picked up by everybody, right? My richness doesn't depend on that. My richness depends on the fact that I'm breathing. Well, that made that easy, right? And now I can become an expression of the success, because that is the success. If according to life, that is the success. And life is really the ruler on the planet. If you think about it, right? There are dictators who want to control everything. Well, life actually controls everything already. Everything. Your breath is controlled by life. Your thoughts are controlled by life. Your ability to think is controlled by life. When you eat, when you go to the bathroom, and when you sleep, it's all controlled by life. So we have a benevolent dictator living inside of every human being on the planet, who unconditionally loves us and whose only agenda is to take perfect care of us. That's pretty good, I'd like to see the really rich people get anywhere close to that kind of ability to be a benevolent dictator, right?
Some of them are smart enough to realize that they are trapped by their wealth, and they learn to let go of it and to not be stuck with it. And
yeah. Yeah. And maybe at some point, you think, okay, well, if I have a lot of money, I'll be rich. And then you have a lot of money and you're not rich. And they say, well, if I have even more money, I'll be rich. And then you have more money. And at some point you say, you know what? It's not about the money. It can't be about the money because it ain't, I'm not getting it for more money. And at that point, then you start to say, okay, what am I going to do? And you discover, just like other people without money have discovered, that helping make life better for as many people as you can is the most fulfilling thing that you can do. Now we're talking about doing and giving priority to being fully present in the space your body occupies is the most important priority. So there's two purposes. Purpose one is to enjoy the gift fully as possible. Purpose two, help where you can. It's not complicated. And the idea that it's selfish to be present in your own space and fully enjoy that. People say that, right? Oh, well, you're just about yourself. No, it's that you were given that gift as a personal gift. And if you don't enjoy it, it's a wasted gift because nobody else can enjoy it for you. And everyone has been given that gift to enjoy. And then when you're fully present in that gift, then you're also fully present to all of your talents. And then you can help in so many more ways than if you only know how to make money or only know how to cut fingernails or whatever it is that that is your contribution.
How do we get fully present in our gift?
Practice.
What should we practice? Just stillness?
Well, no. First of all, know that it's there. Then number two is, do you want that? Because if that becomes more important to you than going to the movies, you might just stay home and be still. If that's more important to you than traveling, you might just stay home and be still. If that's more important to you than making $200 billion, you might just spend more time being still. Right? So do you want that? Because if you don't want it, then you're always not going to focus on it. And then if the answer is yes, I want that, what are you willing to commit to it? Well, I don't really want to commit anything to it. Well, then it's not going to happen. So you're willing to commit something to it, say 5 minutes every day, where you just take time to be present with yourself. And then or an hour. I basically do an hour, right? And then in that hour, first you're going to feel nothing. You're just like going to be tripping in your head, thinking about this and thinking about that. Try to see what would it take to bring your focus inside into the energy in the space your body occupies. And you don't know how to do that, well, try and figure it out. Because you feel it when you're there and you feel different when you're not, right? And so, and somebody can say, well, do this, 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 and this. But it doesn't work like that. It's already within you. It already runs everything. So maybe you could give a little gratitude to what you don't yet know that's running your entire life. And the more that becomes something you want to do, and you're willing to take the time, the closer you get. And it takes time. I've been at it for 50 years. I'm still a work in progress. It's not like I have all the answers. And you can go and find a teacher who will teach you a way to get focused. And that works. And sometimes it works for a while. But there's 100 different ways. Ask yourself the question, what would it take? What would have to happen? And then you would find out why stillness practice. Oh, because it's so easy to get distracted. And so then you set up a place that's safe. And then if you can, chant a word, do a mantra, or find ways to dampen down your senses going out, or look inward, listen inward, feel inward. Our senses usually just monitor energy outside, change outside. But what if you literally you tried, and there's a saying, if your eye is single, your body will be filled with light. There's light in your body, right? When you close your eyes, you just see darkness. But if you go deep enough into that darkness, there's light in that darkness. You are that light. So it just takes practice, and it's a good idea to go around people who have knowledge, who know how to get inside. Listen to what they have to say. They just bring you reports of what it's like to live like that. It's very attractive. And it's fun to be around those people. And some people are a lot more fun to be around than I am. I'm not, because I'm a work in progress. And so are they. And the masters never said, I've arrived and I know everything. They were all still working on it. And they got better with time. They got better with practice. They got better with age. And so they invited people. Yeah, come hang out. Come hang out. And so then you get a contact high from somebody who lives in that space. and then you go away and you lose the contact high. Then you go back and you get the contact high again. And if a person like that can show you a way to focus your awareness inside, then you can begin an independent practice. Or you can just try and figure it out yourself. But at some point, you can't just get it from books. Because this is live. This is live. This is a live performance, live unrehearsed performance.
You have to do the work.
You have to do the work. I got lots of books and I've read lots of books, but they're, it's like I say to people, Google will get you everything except yourself. So Google has limits.
Google knows you better than you know yourself.
No.
Well,
it knows your mind better than you know it. It knows your desires and your preferences and
yes.
your delusions and your and then milks you for them, right? So in that sense, Google knows some part of you better, but Google doesn't know your heart better than you do. Cannot, will never. But you may not know your heart at all either, but you can know your heart and you can know it fully. Google can never know your heart fully. Because when you're in your heart, you're not in the realm of what they can sell you. You're in a realm that's Google doesn't go that deep.
It doesn't. But what I mean is Google has, for most people, mm-hmm. Google has more awareness of them than they do of themselves.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Any closing thoughts for us today?
No, I think the message, I think if you summarize the message of all the great people who recommended that we discover what's in the space our body occupies, I am come not to judge, but to love. And that's the message of the masters to humanity, and it's the message of life to your body. And the two are the same. Your life is the same life as the master's life. Some people call that divine. The energy that when you get in touch with that energy, that's where your divinity lives. That's who the master is. It's omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient in your body is life energy. Solar energy, life energy, master, benign dictator, unconditional love. All the same thing. Synonymous. Running the show from inside.
You have to go find it and take control.
Yeah, you have to come home and find it. You have to actually, you let go into it. People, we like to struggle for control. This is about letting go. This is about Some people call it surrender, but not surrender like at the end of a war. This is about letting go, surrendering to what is deeper in you, opening up to what that might be, and then discovering it. And it's an original discovery. That journey for everyone is an original discovery of something that is more awesome and more magnificent and more amazing and more beautiful and more truth and more real than anything else there is for you.
And now it's time for you to go find it. Thank you so much for joining us today.
All right. Thank you, Rocky.
It's funny, all the things that Udo talks about as being sexy are looked at by society in a very different way. We're pulled away from what we should do by commercial interests. Stop listening to people who are going to make money off of you if they don't have your best interests at heart. It's very hard to live this life because our food laws and the cost of living a healthier life is not so easy to always overcome. I encourage you to find stillness, find the gifts you have, bring them to the world. That is where the magic happens. And no, it's not easy. And no, you may not be rewarded with money. But what matters more to you? I hope I am as wealthy as Udo when I get to his age. I'll keep taking the steps in that direction and enjoying his oils. Next week, we've got Michael Swerva to talk about achieving happiness. He is one of the top coaches in the United Kingdom, and he has been coached by one of the top coaches in the world. We'll get a chance to learn from him as he shares his journey and gives us some great ideas of how to live our better life. If you liked the episode today and know someone who could appreciate it, would you share it? I would appreciate that. Thanks for listening. Have an abundant week. Outro music. Thank you, Simeon. Have a wonderful week yourself.